really good out here.
Cut anything up to an 8-inch log, and it's
Wow.
amazing how
That's
good
amazing.
they are. But
Yeah.
they are slower, but it'll run about an hour in the woods without
Nice.
recharging.
That's pretty cool. What kind of battery is it? Like
They're lithium ion,
yeah. Okay.
so they'll last probably 5 years, you know. But then you can get new ones. Of course, you've been in here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
This is the second one of these, built in the same place. Big tree was here, the pools were here. I kind of re-poured some of them, but we learned the first one was made, this was all lodgepole, just logs stuck in the ground. This was all wood deck because it was fast and quick. But we, you know, we were watering plants up there, trying not to get the wood wet, but you do, and it lasted about 20. It lasted about 20 to 25 years, and then it was starting to rot in places where it was getting all wet, and it's real humid. And the other thing we found out real quick is it was hard to keep it from freezing in the winter, and it got really hot in the summer because there was virtually no rock in here. There was no water. It was just a shed with plastic on it.
Right. Right.
And that's when I said, you know, I kept thinking. I mean, in college, I had a math major and physics and chemistry minors, and I had all the theory, but I was woefully ignorant when it came to practical things.
Right.
But I said, you know what? We gotta have some mass in here. I gotta have something to absorb that excess heat and hold it at night. First thing I did is I got a bunch of 55-gallon drums that I get them for nothing, painted them black, and I had like 14. I think that's 700 gallons of water. It did a little bit, but I mean, thousands of gallons and all that. So before the whole thing rotted away, we started rebuilding this, and we changed the roof line. Originally, it was 45 like this, like they tell you in all the books. That's the way the orchard is.
Right.
In heavy snow country, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because it just loads up with snow.
Yeah.
In the winter, over there, I want it to load up with snow, because it insulates it. Here, I'm trying to grow something in the winter, so it didn't work. So we put straight here, and then we put the slants this way, so the snow slides off east and west, and leaves you with exposed. And then we started rebuilding everything in here with concrete and stone. And Linda laid all this stone, virtually all.
Wow.
Nice work.
I can't ever remember which side.
Rochelle did. I think she did that side.
Yeah, Rochelle, our daughter, of course, grew up here for 19 years. She learned how to be a good mason.
And then she taught me again.
That's so cool.
She's better, really, than we are now.
Oh,
You teach your kids stuff, they learn
Yeah.
it, then
At
they
top of the
teach
hill,
you
we'll
better.
show you. They have 3 fireplaces up there. She did all the stonework on those.
Wow.
Saved them an enormous amount of money if you have to have a mason do that.
Cool.
But Linda
How
laid.
did you learn this?
Trial and error.
Trial and error.
The first few tries, bad news. It stayed on the wall pretty well, but
We learned to make
Not
better mortar.
as pretty
The
as it
mortar
should
that
be.
they make for you to buy, you just go buy mortar mix. It's designed for cement block for guys that want to do this.
Right. Right. Really quick.
And so it's real sticky, gooey because they have lots of lime in it. But lime is basically dirt to cement. It weakens the cement but makes it stickier when it's wet. You're actually a lot better off without it. And we've learned how to make the mix so it's really strong and sticky enough. Linda taught one of our students, a girl named Alicia, who lives in Maine now. She came from Maine, she's living there now. Linda did a lot of this, but this you can hardly go wrong because it's little tiny pieces and it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, and Alicia was very good at that. She did most of the stonework on the pillars. That's a foot thick solid concrete with rebar in there, but you could have just left it that way, but it's ugly.
Yeah.
So this
is beautiful.
It's just there to make it look better, and it adds. Well, all the stone helps. The more mass you can get in here, stone and concrete and water, the better.
How did you cut the stone?
None of this was cut.
None of it is cut. Wow.
And again, one of the advantages of Montana is that we have shale here by the mountain loads. That as it comes down, it splits along the old sediment layers. This stuff is all probably around 3/4 of an inch thick, half. and we just pick it up, it's colorful, it's beautiful, you just have to fit it together. You can
Mm-hmm.
get it thicker, and up at the house, our fireplace has 3 to 4 inch thick, same stuff. And some of them we get that were this thick, and you just use a chisel and it falls down. But all the stone is free.
That's
In this
amazing.
country, you can go out in the forest and get it, you have to get a permit, but it's still back to, you gotta get a permit, but it's free.
Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of
So
rules.
there'll be another step later on.
Pretty soon,
Later on,
you know,
maybe.
It's $50 for the permit, and the next step is, don't go.
Yeah.
Right,
The
right.
answer to that is, 100 years ago, we should all move to the country,
yeah.
like it-
100 years ago.
when Ellen White first
Yeah.
told us, you know.
And
But I wasn't here.
Wouldn't
Yeah,
have as
so-
much work to do
so
though,
what-
'cause Mom
my
and Dad
point
might.
is- Do it fast, do it soon, because
Mhm.
it is gonna close up, or it's gonna get way more expensive, because you have to buy. The stone, I don't know how much the stone on our place would have cost, tens of thousands of dollars if you just went and bought it.
Well, then I have somebody else put it
Well, I
up.
have somebody put it
Yeah.
up,
We wouldn't
you're
have
talking-
it, cause we couldn't afford
It would have probably been a couple $100,000 just to have a mason lay all the stone.
So I was wondering, because Janelle and I were discussing it, like, would tile have the same effect in terms of the absorbing the heat?
It would for this kind of stuff, cause it's dense, it's basically glass, is
Uh-huh.
what tile is, and it would work.
Okay.
You have to pay for it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a little easier to lay, because it's all in pieces, and it looks a little more
It all fits
artificial,
the same.
Uh-huh.
but it's,
It'll do the work. Okay.
How
So-
do you
It's kinda nice to lay tile after.
how do you make this? What's
The
your
mortar?
special mix? Yeah.
off the top of my head, it's basically, 2 parts sand to 1 part cement, Portland cement. The normal mix is 3 parts to 1, and then you
Right, that
add
makes
lime.
it weaker.
But we did it about 2 to 1. And that makes it sticky enough and much denser, and then you also use acrylic, liquid acrylic, that, and that stuff is put in a lot of mortars and stuff now, it's white, looks like milk. And you use that for part of the water. About-
But on a floor, that's not essential,
No.
because it's not gonna fall off the floor.
Floors are easy.
That's
Right,
a lot
right.
more useful, it makes it
So like in
really
the wall.
sticky and strong. It's better for walls, cause yeah, then it's
And
pretty much there.
the other trick is, you gotta put just the right amount of water. If you get it too soupy, everything just, if you get it too dry, it won't stick. You gotta have just enough, so you can kinda gush it in there and it creates a suction, kinda like a, type of thing, and that's what holds it on the
Yeah,
wall.
sometimes you put one up, and you decide, no, I don't want that. And some of them are really hard to get off. You know, You really gotta almost get a crowbar and.
Now, on fireplace, where we had rocks, some of them weighed 50 pounds or more, they're very difficult
Wow.
to eat with that, because we had concrete behind it. We would drill into the concrete and put a screw or something to hold it in place till it's set up the next day.
Oh,
We did
Yeah.
that's
that.
clever.
It takes
And then
time.
put like
Sure.
a 2x4 leaning against it, just to give it a
Yeah.
little, to be sure. But
Uh-huh.
even big things like this that are like 2 or 3 inches thick, you think, how in the world would that
Mhm.
stay?
Right,
But if you
right.
have a good mix and you get it on there and you gush it
Push it
around
around.
and gush it down into its spot, yeah, it's got
The
a
suction
suction
really
that
holds
is amazing.
Wow, that's so cool.
So,
So
Yeah.
how thick of the mortar do you put on?
Oh, a little bit of it depends upon the thickness of the rock,
Okay.
but since, it's not a huge difference, but, just take a trowel, or my hands, I use my hands.
with a glove.
Mason
Mhm.
would have a nightmare she watched.
If you watch the way you do it.
And I just smear it on the wall, make a big area.
Probably half inch
that
to
I'm gonna
3/4 of
start-
an inch thick.
Yeah, and it's not uniform, it's,
Yeah.
some's thicker, some's not as thick. But
Right.
when you take your rock and goosh it in, it all evens itself out.
Gotcha.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
Our early work, the mortar joints were too wide and big, it didn't look as good. We figured, we just kinda put up and just kinda plopped them here and there and filled it in.
Mhm.
And it's better to make, it takes more time and more skill to fit them all.
Mm-hmm.
But, so anyway, this is all reinforced concrete now. And so it doesn't matter if it gets wet, it's not gonna rot, and it added tremendous mass, and it's a whole nother science of how to form ceilings.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'd think concrete is just gonna crack and fall in, but it's where you put the rebar, and if anybody's interested in that, I can tell you the whole thing, the engineering behind it, but it is really strong building material. If you do it right, it's essentially what they make highway bridges out of and how to
Yeah.
do that. That whole patio is all a room underneath there, that's a ceiling. So when we heat down below, that gets warm. And actually,
Mhm.
this right here, I don't think you,
This
yeah,
morning,
feel it.
when
You
I
feel
walked
it?
on it with my
Is it
son.
hot?
See?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's
not
warm.
hot, it's just because you've had a little fire. Just
There and
in the winter, this is
Wow.
100
in that
degrees.
room.
Wow.
Cause this, you see the heater is down there, but you don't see a flue anywhere. This is the flue. There's a tunnel here that's 2 feet by 2 feet, and you actually crawl into it. And it goes under the bridge. Under the bridge, it's actually a water jacket that a student of mine made. It's a 1 foot diameter steel oil pipe, 1/4 inch steel,
Mm-hmm.
and an 18-inch. So there's a 3-inch water jacket around it, and the smoke goes through the foot diameter one. Preheats water in this whole section before it goes down to the pool heater downstairs that you were making. So the whole idea is to start with 40-degree water, and with the least wood possible, get it to bath temperature or whatever you want.
Interesting.
And most wood fires are just, so much of the heat goes right up the stack that it's very inefficient. So we burn a hot, clean fire, so you don't get creosote in here. It comes through there, but the water's absorbing heat, and then it goes through all this concrete, absorbs even more, and you can see it makes a 45 right there. Do you see it right there?
Oh yeah.
Okay, and did you see there's a wood door on it right there?
Right, yeah.
I hadn't cleaned this in 20 years. It's about 20 years. And I started to get a little bit of smoke. It was starting to slow down. I said, you know, maybe I should clean it. I figured I'd clean it every few years. It'd been 20 years. I opened that door, and it shows you the smoke is so cold, cool, warm, not hot. It's never started that wood on fire. I mean, I opened that up, kind of crawled in there, and there was ash buildup just at the bottom, because it goes in there, and then it goes straight up about 25 feet. And it's a 3 foot by 3 foot poured concrete flue, so it's really safe. In the middle is 1 foot diameter, so you got a foot of concrete around. That absorbs the heat. And by the time it gets through about 50 feet of concrete and all this water and everything, it's just warm enough coming out the top that it'll still have a draft. And it does have a pretty good draft, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's incredibly efficient because it heats all the floors and all this stuff. The whole thing is, it doesn't take any fans, no pumps, nothing. It's just natural flow.
How did you find out to design something like
Yeah.
this?
By doing it
Trial
all
and
wrong
error.
the first time, trial and error. And
Trial
thinking,
and error.
I'd wake up in the middle of the night and how in the world can I heat stone and rock without having to put a bunch of pipes and pumps? I mean, it's
There's a
We
just-
find
standard
money
way.
it costs
with
a fortune, and then you gotta have
special
power.
fluid
And every year you get 2 or 3 little glitches, some little gadget goes wrong and it won't work. This is just natural.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel it's
Fascinating.
cooler in here than it is outside?
Yeah.
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 How, it isn't at night, but it is in the day.
Yeah, it's more
Mhm.
How are we doing that? You know, the big greenhouses, if you go in there, they'll have a bank of fans this big around at the end of the whole thing, blowing like crazy all day long to keep the thing from overheating, because there's no mass in there. The way this works is there's so
Oh,
much
that's
stone
stone.
and rock and all that it absorbs the heat, but you have to have a little ventilation. So in the laundry room in there is a window that's open.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a window up here that's open. Just those 2 windows give the airflow,
Wow.
and that's all you need.
That's really cool.
And I'm leaving them open day and night now. In the fall, we close them at night.
So with cleaning out the ash here, how deep was it? Was it actually closing off part of the cross section of the flue, and that was what was slowing things down?
It was in one place. In here, it was probably 8 to 10 inches deep, so it would have gone another 20 or 30 years. And I still haven't actually cleaned it here, only as far as I could reach. Where it had all but closed it off is where it goes over, and then comes 2 feet like this, and then it goes up, and there's this 1 foot hole, goes up 25 feet. The fly ash in there that was a little heavy kept coming back down, and so it was like from here, and it was kind of tapered up like this, and it almost closed off that hole.
Very
That was the only place that was a real problem.
That was the constriction. I was
Yeah.
interested, so is that an angle change to the vertical, to the
No, it's
long-
just 'cause
to the
it's
long
vertical. It's
Yeah,
just
cause you had angle changes here and it wasn't any
No.
deeper. Yeah, okay.
And as you went this way, you got less and less and less and less and less, because over there, it's moving faster, and the fly ash is staying in the air, in the smoke, and it's kinda, yeah. They used to make everything this way. Down at Anaconda, Montana, there is a flue that was part of the
The mine there.
the mine for, refractory work. And it's about, I think it's 700 feet tall. And its shape starts big like this, starts like, I don't know, it's 100 feet wide at the bottom. And kind of comes up like this. And up there 700 feet or something, it's only like maybe 10 feet in diameter or something. But because it was so tall, it created an incredible draft. Just like, because they didn't have any electricity or anything. And that's how they ran their blast furnaces, because it was sucking air just like a blast, just like a fan. It's still standing, because it'd take tremendous amount of money to tear it down. The mine's no longer there. But they worked on natural principles. And if you do that in your home, your garden, your hydro and all that, pretty soon you end up with virtually no bills. And everything works so easy, and it's not that hard to maintain.
You wouldn't happen to have the blueprints for this place, would you?
Yeah, I do. We drew the plans for the
Oh,
whole thing.
really?
We did all the little parts and so on. I can make you a copy, but it's a little thumbprinting, because
Okay.
I used it someday I should make a brand new one.
Oh, we'd love it. We'd love
Anyway,
it.
so that's the smoke, yeah.
How much longer, after you're done here, could you go to the house?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go look at the beans over there and then go up there,
Okay.
so I'll be up there probably.
All right.
Okay.
Now, this building was built partly as our ministry building too, for our school. And so, but in a sense, you kind of want to do that. Maybe not in Arkansas, but
They talk a long time, I think.
this, it's so cold here in the winter. I wanted a horseshoe-shaped building where this was not the outside wall on the whole thing. The only outside wall is south, because there's no sun coming from the north.
Right,
And that gave me more mass and gave me more insulation on the back. In fact, this was gonna be a double door right here. But I figured, it really wouldn't make that much difference, so I never did that part. And,
Horseshoe shape.
but it made a nice place for our classroom, and it made a nice garden environment for the kids to be in and all
I
that.
see.
And we still use that as a office and whatnot. So, you wouldn't have to do that, I mean, you could end it right here if you wanted. But the more mass you have, the better. The bigger
More
the better.
mass, the
So,
better.
the other
Okay.
thing with a homemade, any greenhouse, but a homemade greenhouse especially, it's all natural. What happens is, in the winter, the glazing on top, and you get that down there, you get 10 or 15 degrees, and especially if you have just single layer.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
the
kinda
air
cold, too.
inside's probably 3 degrees warmer than it is outside. I mean, it's really cold. And it's just in the same with big glazing out there, it's just really cold. No insulation in that section. That cold air is heavy, because the colder air is, the denser it is, so it wants to sink right to the floor. If you didn't have any place for it to go, the whole floor down here might be 20 degrees colder than it is
Wow.
upstairs or whatever. So the secret to that is you have to have some place, it doesn't have to be the whole building, where the cold air can continue to go downhill. That's why we have a furnace room underneath. The stairway to get down to it allows the cool air to flow down the steps.
I see.
On that side of the building, over here, see
Fascinating.
this little grate here? That's what that grate is. And my grandson loves it because you lift the grate up, it's just sitting there. And it's 2 feet by 2 feet, and he can slide right down that, because it follows that curved walkway there, and it's going slanting downhill and comes out near the bottom of the basement downstairs. And there's 2 reasons for that. One is allow the cool air on that side of the building for a place to go.
Uh-huh.
The second reason is, that's not the outside door. That's a germination potting room, and then the outside door, second door. You open those two, one on a wheelbarrow in there, close the outside one, and you drop firewood in there, and it just slides
Right,
Oh, that's
right, it's a chute.
clever.
And so you don't have to be dragging firewood through the whole building and all that, so it
Uh-huh.
serves two purposes. Without that, it would be very cold on the floor here.
Ah,
And also,
I get it.
this heated floor helps, and then the pools help too. 'Cause
Mhm.
we heat those with wood in the winter
see.
and solar in the summer.
Now I understand these pools are two different temperatures.
Well, they can be, right
Uh-huh.
now, because I haven't actually heated them differently, they're probably both about 70. I'm guessing.
Okay. And did you want like two different pools so
Yes.
you can have different
Because
temperatures for?
that part is just therapeutic or just.
Oh,
fun.
got you. Okay.
But this one, and you can see this was all cast in one pour, we mixed it in and brought in a wheelbarrow. I mean, it's totally simple. All the concrete in here, we never had a truck come. We mixed it all ourselves, and so. For the
Nice.
time, but anyway, you can just sit there, and that's a hot tub. It's a big hot tub.
Yeah,
And
it's
we heat
nice.
that one to about 100 to 105, and it's just wonderful, especially in the
Yeah.
winter.
Mm.
And little steps, and it also has served as our baptismal font.
Right, right.
Quite a few
Cool.
kids, including our daughter, were.
Oh, that's so
baptized
cool.
there.
Amen.
Yeah.
So this is just concrete to keep
It's just
to
concrete,
put
and
together.
it's-
Okay.
I heat it up to about 90 when they want to be baptized, so it's not hot tub temperature, but it's just right.
Mhm.
The last one, Leighton Petty, was the last one to be baptized here. His two older brother and sister were baptized in the river, and it was about probably 45 or 50. And they were,
Yeah. Yeah.
Baptized here.
Very nice.
This one we usually go to around 80. 'Cause
80.
you can swim in it a little bit,
Right.
and all this stuff is for Curtis. We're trying to teach him to swim.
Oh.
Oh.
He's almost
Yeah.
got it, but not quite.
Yeah, I saw some goggles over there.
Yeah,
That's
How
really
old is
cool.
he?
he's a little over 4.5.
Oh.
He'll be
That's
5
cool.
in November.
That's
Of course,
really
we had
cool.
the bathroom there for the classroom, but also the rule was, before you go swimming, you take a shower. Because
Mhm.
there's no chemicals in there. I mean, there's no filters, there's no pumps,
Mm-hmm.
no chlorine or anything. And so it does, about every 3 weeks in the summer, it will just begin to get a little discolored on an edge or something. I drain it and clean it out with a broom.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do that, we usually use a little bleach. You don't have to. If you just clean it out, then you probably have to clean it every 2 weeks. You'd come back sooner. And then you just fill it back up with spring water.
Nice.
And then that was a little science lab, but we use that for everything now. It's where we mix all our stuff. And we do use Miracle Grow fertilizer for our flowers, but not for our food. And you wouldn't have to for the flowers. You wouldn't get as many blossoms and all that. But for food, I want to know that we can grow it without having to be dependent on getting
Mhm.
fertilizer.
Right.
But the
Mm-hmm.
flowers, it helps.
Yeah.
There's a laundry room in there. And then, I don't know if you wanna see the heater downstairs, but that's what drives the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Without
Also-
that, you can't do all this.
Josh,
It-
show me pictures of that down there.
Is there a reason why the geraniums are in here? Is it they're just better for them?
No, we wanted a place that was not only grew food, but was a place of beauty. It feeds your soul.
Right,
Especially
right.
when cold weather, it's snowing.
That's why even the vines and stuff, right?
Yeah, everything, it's just to make it, it's like our little tiny piece of Eden, not
Yeah.
good, but.
Right, right.
So we're looking for flowers because we're trying to do everything natural that are naturally, will grow abundantly, take almost no care,
Mm-hmm.
and bugs don't bother them because in the greenhouse environment you do get bugs.
Mm-hmm.
There's no bugs here, but inevitably bringing a new plant in or something, there's all kinds of stuff and you get problems. Geraniums
see.
are virtually bug-free.
I like that. Okay.
And so is this plant. I found this just about 4 years ago. We're looking for plants that will blossom in the winter
Mm-hmm.
and in the shade. This
Mhm.
is in the tall lily. This is what's left. It has beautiful big orange blossoms, and this is the seed pod, which you could start more.
Mm-hmm.
I found this down in Balboa Park in San Diego.
Wow.
But it was all back in behind bushes and under trees where it was totally shady and all that, because if it gets out in direct sun, especially in California, it kills the leaves. So it's
I
perfect
see.
for a greenhouse.
Uh-huh.
And it has beautiful green foliage anyway, and so we're gonna fill this whole area with it. They're gorgeous blossoms.
Nice.
How did you figure out what plants didn't have as much bugs? Just experience?
Well, yeah, we planted dahlias in here. We planted, you know, all kinds of different stuff, and almost all of them get aphids really bad, and
Aphids,
you're fighting it all
yeah.
the time, and it just
Right.
isn't worth it. Geraniums, virtually trouble-free. This guy's trouble-free. The one that's the purple one right over there, just on the other side of the hot tub, that is cyclamens. Cyclamens are wonderful because they cycle.
Uh-huh.
They have a bulb that looks about like a big beet.
Mm-hmm.
They blossom twice a year, and one of those is in the winter. So they store up energy for about 4 or 5 months, and then they make this huge floral display for a
Yeah.
month and a half.
Yeah.
And then they kind of go dormant. It's just green leaves again, and then they come back, and they blossom in shade. They love shade, and they'll blossom at 50 degrees in the winter.
What's it called again?
Cyclamen.
Thank you.
These are from South Africa, and I don't know where cyclamens came, but geraniums, they'll blossom year-round. In the winter, there are not this many blossoms by far on the geraniums because there's not enough light, but there's always some. And the other nice thing about geraniums is all you have to do on a geranium, you just cut that off right there. You probably know all this. You just cut that off and stick it in the ground, and it'll really make a whole new plant.
That's so cool.
So we grow about $2,000 worth of geraniums a year, all from
Wow.
our own cuttings, and we sell chondro at a farmer's
Wow.
market. People love them.
That's so cool.
So it's a great thing for a cash crop. Irises do well in here, but they only blossom for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Mm.
You know, roses are a problem. We have roses over here, but they attract aphids. Roses are just terrible that way.
So this a fig tree, right?
That's the biggest food producer in here, and it takes up like, a third of the whole building.
Right.
You see all the figs all over it. There's
Uh-huh.
literally hundreds of figs a year.
So it doesn't require exposure to like insects or anything like that to in order for
This
it to...
one doesn't. Some figs do.
Yeah.
Some figs are
Uh-huh.
not self-pollinating. This one
Gotcha.
is.
But this one is.
I don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got it from a Hungarian guy down in Santa Barbara, California. We were visiting down there, and I just admired his stuff, and I went and asked him, told him I had a greenhouse. He said, "You cut me off. You just cut off a couple of limbs. It was dormant. It does go dormant in the winter. It drops its leaf in December and starts re-leafing out in February. So it's a very short dormant period." And he said, "It'll grow, just don't let them freeze." He wrapped them in wet newspaper, and we took them. It was at Christmas time, so we kept them in the car and took them in the motel room on the way home. We were just visiting some relatives. I planted them in wet dirt when we got back, and didn't do anything for months. About July, I had about given up on the thing, hardly even watering it. I went by this little tiny green shoot on one of the end of the sticks,
Oh,
and I said,
exciting.
"Yeah." Then I started, and that's what happened. We had
Wow.
3 of them to begin with, I think.
Okay.
Huh?
They just,
Did you end up having to cut the other ones down, or did they?
another one was right here, and I figured, it filled the whole place. And I
Right.
said, well, maybe we can do oranges or lemons or something. And so we've been experimenting. I put a fig
I
back
see a
there.
lemon down there or something.
Yeah, that's a lemon tree, and it does all right, but they need more light. The reason the fig does so well in this environment is because it has these huge leaves, and they're used to growing under the canopy in the natural world, in the jungle. We've seen them in Costa Rica. They're growing in near total shade, and they have these huge leaves. Perfect for in here.
Right.
And they go dormant,
Yeah.
so they don't need the winter light.
For those couple of months
For a
where
couple
it's
months.
cloudy and gray.
Yeah.
I also noticed that you use translucent
Not
plastic
clear.
instead of
Yeah.
clear. Yeah.
It
Does
used
that
to be
matter?
clear, Right?
It used to be clearer, but it's always translucent even when it's new because
Oh, okay.
you can get clear stuff. It's called acrylic.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get this stuff in a single layer. They use this for windows in jails because it's bulletproof. It's
Oh,
about a
wow.
1/4 inch thick. But of course it does scratch, it's
Yeah.
just the plastic. But it doesn't matter, in a greenhouse, it's almost better to diffuse the light than to have direct hot light coming here and there.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
There's a lot of other stuff, like this is called Blushing Bride, that ivy thing there.
Mm-hmm.
It's gorgeous. It's pretty now, but you
Yeah.
should see it in the spring. It turns all pink. All those, about half the leaves are pinkish, that's why it's called Blushing Bride.
That's
It's
cool.
beautiful, and those geraniums kind of grow through it. It just kind of makes a nice little floral thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we can sell tons of that too, because as soon as it hits the water, it roots.
Oh, wow.
So we just cut it off. It cover the whole thing.
Yeah.
We just cut it off, put it in ground, and you can sell it.
That's really cool.
Nice.
Got a couple of questions. Is
Yeah.
this triple glazing that you have here?
This is double. They
This is
make
double?
triple.
Yeah, I've seen it. This is the polycarbonate then?
Yes.
Yes.
And then, the baskets, your lovely hanging baskets where did you get those big baskets?
The baskets themselves,
Yes.
I bought those at our best nursery in town, but you can find them online, I'm sure. But it's called Gardener's. No, trying to think of the name. Anyway, they just sell the baskets, just the basket. And what we like is that is actually